Hello, fellow citizens. We are back and finally able to finish the class tier lists of the Souls games with the Dark Souls 3 classes.
I thought we were doing them in chronological order of release.
You were late to the party. Shut up, George.
I was busy, okay? Shut up. Look at you with your fancy fucking mic whilst us grown-ups suffer.
Fighting words from the guy so old he probably owns a blue police box.
I'm surprised you even know what Doctor Who is Biden. Anyways, starting things off as always with the Knight class, a personal favorite of mine and very accessible to beginners. I say S tier.
D tier, where the magic at?
Oh god, Trump, you were not kidding about Biden's love of magic and Souls games. A tier is the absolute lowest this class can be.
I never lied, George. The Knight is a very reliable go-to class that excels at strength and dex builds, and not being too inaccessible towards weeaboo magic dicksuckers. I say a tier personally.
Democracy comes first, and so a tier it is. However, in my heart, it'll always be S tier. Now for Mercenary fellas.
Oh, that mercenary that's an easy...
Don't you fucking dare say Mercenary is D tier due to the lack of magic, you child-abusing bastard!
I was actually going with S tier due to the anime look.
Fuck, that's even worse. I would fully agree with S tier due to being the best for dex builds and the twin blades are goated. Just don't mention anime ever again, Biden.
For real, JoJo, you need help. I agree with the S tier rankings as those swords alone are goated, but the class is also fairly balanced in other stats also. Warrior is up next, and I can imagine Joe will say D tier, so what do you boys think?
Easy S tier to be honest. Warrior has the highest health, stamina, strength, and raw damage of any melee-orientated class in the early game. Two-handing the battle axe does insane damage early.
Solid points, George, but I would have to drop him down to a tier due to fuck all magic points. Meaning you can't use many weapon arts with him between trips to bonfires unless you sacrifice Estus flasks for cerulean flasks.
I would agree with both of you, but since he starts with the highest of all classes in 3 stats, has great armor and a great weapon, I would agree with the S tier. Herald is up next.
Finally, a class worth talking about. Herald is the knight with a safe defensive spear and shield, balanced stats, and a nice heal spell. A tier.
That doesn't make sense. The Herald is worse than the Knight if you don't want miracles in your build. But even if you do want them, the heal spell you get is the worst heal in the game and isn't worth the trade-off. I'd say B tier as he's far from terrible.
The 911 Renegade is spitting facts. The Herald is a worse knight with a weak weapon and a shitty heal spell. I'd say C tier.
I guess we can meet in the middle at B tier. He's solid and one of my favorites, but you guys make good points. Thief is up next, guys, and this might be our first D tier.
Yeah, D tier, moving on.
The fuck? Trump, are they for real? Thief is S tier. Highest luck stat, he has a bow and a bleed weapon, and as every Uchikatana user in DS3 will tell you, bleed is broken in DS3.
Yeah, they were dropped on their heads. Don't worry, Bush. Thief is a cheeky S tier class. I can't really add anything else as he summed it up best.
2S, 2D, we can meet in the middle at B tier then. I hope we can all agree Assassin is top tier as he's a hybrid done right.
It's tier class since he has magic and a pokey sword.
The boys are correct. Whilst I dislike the Assassin's weapon, it's still reliable, I guess, and the high dex and intelligence makes him a solid choice.
Not to mention Spook broke speedruns back in the day as on launch it removed almost all fall damage and made you silent to enemies. Herald felt like a nerf in exchange for a weak spell. Assassin is a weaker class with a top tier spell.
Glad we all agree, it certainly is a rarity. Sorcerer will be divisive, I feel, as he's the worst at melee builds, but the best at sorcery.
S tier, since unlike in DS2, his spells are actually able to one-shot most early enemies and he starts with 2 spells for once.
Sleepy Joe and his failed boner for magic once again fails to ignore that once you run out of spells in the early game, you are fucked.
He is weak without his spells, possibly the weakest. However, his dagger does increased backstab and riposte damage. I'd say B tier personally.
C tier at best.
I would agree with B tier. He does one thing amazingly well, but that's all he has. Pyromancer in this game is far from what he was in DS1, but I wouldn't say he is awful.
S tier as his magic works well against those venom motherfuckers.
His magic is pretty amazing. I personally prefer the combustion over the fireballs, but the added versatility is nice, even if his stats are mid. Maybe a tier?
I would agree with either B or A tier. Unlike Sorcerer, he's fairly reliable for melee early on and has a lot of fire magic which helps him out against fleshy hollows.
Since Sorcerer was in B, I'll put Pyromancer in a tier. Cleric is the class with the most versatility. In my opinion, his mace is good against armored foes, force knocks enemies back, and his heal spell is amazing for the early game.
S tier is the magic is amazing and he has a great melee weapon.
I'm not too big a fan of the Cleric since the Force spell doesn't do damage and his stats aren't that good. Maybe C tier?
For sure, brother. That robe-wearing Catholic looks like he has touched one too many millennials in his time. I'd say D tier to be politically correct.
Trump lets leave politics out of this. I'll leave him in B tier for now, even though I do quite like the Cleric. Now for the Deprived.
This naked fucker always sneaks his way into our lives like pickles on a Big Mac. D tier, moving on.
See what we have to deal with, George? Deprived is S tier due to the free levels and very balanced stats.
The free levels are nice, but you only get 9 of them. And I'm not sure if that is enough to make him viable given the lack of armor and melee weapon. I guess chainmail armor at the Firelink Shrine helps him out. Maybe a tier.
I agree with Bush. However, in DS3, every class gets 5 free level ups early game with Joel of Lundor, meaning that technically the Deprived only gets 4 more levels than the other classes. That just isn't worth the 0 armor and poor weapon. D tier without doubt.
I mean, he gets 14 free levels then, whereas the others only get 5 free levels? I don't know what that poor math was, Obama.
I was staying up helping Biden with Vord of the Boreal Valley. Leave me alone. This tier list is once again cursed, gentlemen.
The fuck? He was talking to me, Trump?
Nope, he was talking to me. I'm clearly the MVP here.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me here, guys. I hope that the person watching this enjoyed it enough to like and subscribe.
Yeah, have a nice day, guys, and consider checking Mr. Gaming Rift out on Twitch.
Praise the sunburn.
I need new friends.